Yo, 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 what's good? What's good? Welcome back to Controversial Conversation. I am your host, Jizzo, that jokester. Y'all can just call me Jokester, babe. You already know what it is, man. So if you did not catch the last episode or the last segment or the last, I don't really know, what do we call these things nowadays? I mean, I don't know. Anyways, if you didn't catch the last one, we talked about the 20 ways that I believe the left needs to start moving forward. So, when I mean the left, I don't just mean Democrats. I don't mean the Democratic Party. I don't mean liberals. I mean people that claim that they are on the left, whether it's commentators, whether it's organizers, whether it's activists, whether it's just constituents. I explain the myriad of ways that we could be more engaged and the ways that we could really move more cohesively, right? We could create coalitions that had defined roles and stuff like that. So we're going to get into that one later, where I actually break down those pieces even more, right? Because I feel like I kind of ran through them. I needed you guys to hear all 20 of them so that they're out there, but I want to really go through them individually. But today I want to talk about something different, something interesting to me. So I don't know how many of you guys have watched the movie Black Panther. I was gonna say the original, but yeah, the first one with R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman, right? So it's T'Challa and it's Killmonger with Michael B. Jordan, and it's a very interesting movie when you kind of use like the analysis of philosophical ideologies and then you compare that to like real world implications and struggles. And I know that sounds like what, a whole bunch of I just went to watch the movie. It was kind of like Lion King but with black people. I get it, it was a good movie, I loved it. But I want to take a deeper look because I feel like things were left out and I feel like context is needed. We need to add a little bit more nuance because when the think pieces were coming out at the end of the movie, and everybody was like, Killmonger was right. Was he? Like, it's a fair question to ask. And the reason I want to ask it is because I don't think we actually look at the dichotomy between the two in a very, very real, fair, and objective way. And that's what I want to do today. So, today, we're going to talk about the dichotomy of the two ideologies between Killmonger and Black Panther. And was Killmonger wrong? Very interesting, right? All right, so let's start. So, what makes a revolutionary? Is it their vision for justice or the methods they use to achieve it? So, Black Panther, it gave us two opposing forces: T'Challa, the royal protector of tradition, and Killmonger, the broken son of diaspora rage. But what if the real story isn't good versus evil? Like, what if it was privilege versus pain or sovereignty versus solidarity? Let's explore. All right, so part one, the core conflict. We have two ideologies, one truth. So at its heart, Black Panther isn't just a superhero movie. It's a debate between two visions of justice for Black people globally. So T'Challa's philosophy is to protect sovereignty. Wakanda is untouched by colonialism, thriving because it has guarded its resources and culture fiercely. So T'Challa represents the belief that preserving one's own is the highest priority. His reluctance to engage globally comes from fear. So let's say if Wakanda opens its doors, does it risk losing everything that makes it special? But Killmonger's philosophy is about global revolution. So Killmonger's rage is rooted in lived experiences of oppression, and his plan was to use Wakanda's advanced technology to arm the oppressed, flipping the global power of dynamic. He sees Wakanda's isolationism as a betrayal. How can you watch your brothers and sisters suffer and do nothing? Wakanda could have been the liberator, but it chose to hide. So, this is the key tension. Both ideologies stem from a place of love for their people, but they clash over how to create justice. Is it better to preserve and protect or to disrupt and liberate? Part two. Let's talk about the validity of Killmonger's vision. So, Killmonger isn't a villain in the traditional sense. He's a wounded revolutionary. His critiques of Wakanda cut to the core of what it means to hold power responsibly. And it's a betrayal of the diaspora. Because Wakanda's choice to remain hidden while the African diaspora endured slavery, colonialism, and systemic oppression is a profound moral failing. Killmonger's rage asks an uncomfortable question. Can you truly call yourself a beacon of greatness if you allow others who look like you to suffer? So that's a challenge to reform. Reform assumes the systems can be fixed. However, Killmonger embodies the harsh reality that power doesn't yield without confrontation. His methods reflect the brutal necessity of revolution in the face of entrenched oppression. So let's talk about part three, the flawed framing of the film. So while the film elevates Killmonger's critique, it ultimately punishes him for his methods. This framing limits the depth of the conversation. Let's look at Killmonger as the tragic antagonist. See, the narrative labels his anger as a flaw, casting him as too unstable to lead. But what if that anger is not a flaw, but a strength? A fire forged by injustice. Instead of exploring the validity of the vision, the film relegates him to the role of a tragic foil for T'Challa's transformation. So there's this missed opportunity for unity. So imagine a resolution where T'Challa and Killmonger find common ground. So Wakanda uses its resources to empower oppressed communities globally, but with a strategy rooted in education, diplomacy, and innovation rather than violence. Killmonger's lived experiences, they can inform Wakanda's outreach, thus creating a balance between rage and responsibility. So a key question, why does the film feel safer punishing Killmonger's vision rather than grappling with his potential to reshape the world? Well, let's talk about the larger implications. I apologize. The larger implications. So there's Afrofuturism and responsibility. So Black Panther presents Wakanda as this Afrofuturist dream, a nation untouched by colonialism, thriving on its own terms. But it also raises tough questions. Does privilege, whether as a person or a nation, carry an obligation to help others? Is Wakanda's sovereignty more important than global solidarity? So let's talk about global Black solidarity versus national sovereignty. So Killmonger represents the diaspora's pain, calling for global solidarity among Black people. T'Challa represents a more insular perspective, focused on protecting Wakanda's sovereignty. So this tension mirrors real-world debates. Should nations prioritize their own citizens or take responsibility for addressing historical and systemic injustices beyond their borders? Let's talk about the role of anger in a revolution. So Killmonger's rage is portrayed as his downfall, but anger often drives monuments for change. Is anger inherently destructive, or can it be harnessed as a tool for liberation? So the film critiques Killmonger's violence, but doesn't fully address the systemic violence that he's responding to. I want to do something interesting right here. And I want to use another philosophy from another character that we're going to talk about later in other episodes. But if you're familiar with The Dark Knight Rises, there's another revolutionary rhetoric and theme that is the underlying tone of that movie. But is it a real revolution is something we're going to talk about. Is it legitimate is something I want to add. And what is the comparison between Bane's perceived injustices and the legitimate grievances of Killmonger? So the archetype of the revolutionary antagonist, like, it isn't new, right? So Killmonger's vision shares parallels with Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. The similarities, right? So they both expose the hypocrisy of entrenched power, Bane with Gotham's wealth hoarding, and Killmonger with Wakanda's isolation. Both weaponize rage and revolutionary rhetoric to challenge systems of control. But the key difference, Killmonger's cause is deeply rooted in historical and ongoing injustices, making his motivations authentic and morally compelling. Bane, on the other hand, uses revolution as a facade for personal vengeance, and that reduces the depth of his critique. So here's the key insight when it comes to these similarities. And like I said, we're going to talk more about Bane and was The Dark Knight Rises truly anti revolutionary propaganda? But the key insight that I want to leave you with off of this is that Killmonger's vision is revolutionary, while Bane's is nihilistic. One seeks liberation, the other seeks destruction. It's a very interesting comparison because we look at the comparison between the perceived protagonist and antagonist, where we have, T'Challa and then we have Killmonger. But what about looking at it from the perceived perspective of two antagonists? Are they really antagonists? And is there a legitimate claim that responding with violent methods to violence can lead to at least the benefit of the outcome of the oppressed, whereas nonviolence can never really lead to that? And I'm not advocating for violence, I'm advocating for better ways. But I'm also trying to see, is Killmonger really wrong? Because the movie doesn't truly adjust or address systemic injustices that he is talking about. And it uses the platform for the ascension of T'Challa rather than addressing the claims that are just being dismissed. So at the end of Black Panther, T'Challa reforms Wakanda, but only after Killmonger dies. But was that really a win? What if Killmonger's rage wasn't his flaw, but his gift? What if Wakanda had embraced his vision instead of rejecting it? The movie gives us a safe resolution, but the deeper truth is this: justice isn't comfortable. It's messy, disruptive, and often fueled by the very rage that the system tries to suppress. So, what do you think? Is revolution inherently flawed, or is it the only path to real change?